So, Tyler, there was quite an amount of daylight between some senators and the bill just in the last few hours. Has there been any movement or any kind of reconciliation or anything like that in the last few hours?
Yeah, hey, Vonnie. Well, President Trump is really trying to ramp up the pressure on these Republicans that you're talking about that are threatening to withhold their vote from this bill unless they see some changes to the House's package. And perhaps the most vocal group that's emerging are a group of Republicans really pitching themselves as fiscal hawks because they want to see some deeper spending cuts, as the CBO releases a new analysis earlier this morning that predicts the House plan could add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. Now, I did have the chance to catch up with a few of these Republicans, including Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, who told me he's working closely with the White House on this, but he realizes that the type of deeper spending cuts he wants to see is going to be hard to accomplish.
If I'm wrong, challenge me. I want to get in that dialogue, and quite honestly, that is really my discussion with President Trump. And so he had Kevin Hassett call me up right away. I'll be meeting with the Secretary. So he wants to engage. Again, he wants to reduce spending. It's just hard to do. I'm not denying that fact.
See, one of the tough things here for the White House is that they're dealing with conflicting demands. On one hand, you have members calling for these deeper spending cuts, but on the other, you have Republicans who are really raising concerns about what that could mean for benefit programs like Medicaid. Now, we should say broadly there is agreement when it comes to sort of those core pillars of this package, including the main tenets of extending the key 2017 tax cuts. But by and large, there's a lot of different little disagreements that could emerge here that could ultimately slow this bill down. And Vonnie, I will quickly point out one of them that's sort of becoming a flashpoint here up on Capitol Hill, and that's what's going to happen with lifting the SALT cap. Maybe not contentious in the Senate, but when they kick this legislation back to the House, could pose an issue. I did catch up with Senate Majority Leader John Thune and asked him what sort of sweet spot number they're looking at lifting that cap to. Of course, the House plan lifts it to $40,000. He told me that they are still working that out, which means that we could anticipate some changes.
Well, Tyler, the other thing that sort of emerged overnight was that Elon Musk seems to be a massive opponent of the bill as well. He called it in a post on X a disgusting abomination and talked about how pork-filled it was. Can Elon give any support to some of these senators perhaps who are holding out? Does it give just a little marginal momentum?
Yeah, he potentially adds fuel to the fire for some of these deficit hawks that are withholding their vote at the moment. There's about 4 of them. Keep in mind that the White House can really only lose 3 votes in order to get this bill over the finish line. And it does add a little bit of fodder here to their argument when it comes to deficit spending. Also, Ron Johnson told me that he's concerned about what some of the tax incentives look like and whether or not those sweeteners, like no taxes on tips or overtime pay, would really incentivize growth in a meaningful way when you hear the White House talk about things like stabilizing the debt to GDP ratio. But at the end of the day, we also have to probably, I think it's fair to put into context the fact that Elon Musk has also come out against how this bill is rolling back some of those clean energy tax credits under the IRA, which would impact electric vehicles such as Tesla.